Hey there, welcome back, my blissful biz enthusiast. I'm your host, Susanne Reicher, your guide through the twists and turns of a transformative entrepreneurial journey in your midlife. Today, I'm thrilled to share a little bit more about my personal story, my odyssey from the bustling world of digital advertising to the more or less serene landscape of online entrepreneurship, all unfolding in my 40s and 50s. Okay, let's start back in the 90s. Picture this: after I got my master's in economics and marketing at the University of Hamburg, I got my first real job in 1998 in a small digital advertising agency. So I was a junior account manager. And 1998, this was when the internet and online marketing and digital marketing and websites and all those things, that was pretty new, right? For everybody, like all the companies, the marketing departments, everybody was just figuring things out. And I had a lot of responsibility pretty quickly, right? So I didn't necessarily rose up, but for a junior account manager, I really had a lot of freedom there. So I was flying business class every week around Germany, presenting ideas and concepts from the agencies to our company clients all over Germany. And it was great, right? I was working with great teams, top designers, developers. There was so much creativity in the air. It was exciting, but it was also exhausting. I was working a lot, late hours, weekends. There really was no time for anything else. So I was young. I was in my 20s, but I was already getting tired. But I continued to do that. I worked like this much, and in advertising agencies, employed for the next 12 years or so, moving from agency to agency, working in Hamburg, in Geneva, in Switzerland, and in London. And in hindsight, it's funny. I was moving jobs so much, hoping for a different outcome, but doing the same thing everywhere, just in a different location, right? So always working a lot. The worst was actually my job in London, where I think I clocked around 70 hours per week. It was insane, and I was deeply miserable. And that was really the first time I came so close to a really serious burnout. So I would say I had a burnout. I was burned out. But still, I stuck with it because I didn't know what else I could do. So actually, I got fired from that job in London. I can't really blame them because I had a burnout. I wasn't doing a good job anymore. I can blame them for the way they handled it. Pretty shitty. But anyway, I didn't know what else to do. I moved back to Hamburg, got another job, and continued on that a little self-destructive journey. And I worked with amazing clients like Mercedes or BMW, Procter & Gamble, or the hair care brands that was in London and in Geneva, then Coca-Cola, so many amazing companies. And with really great people, right? So with top designers, art directors, creative directors, copywriters, developers, strategists. It was really cool, like planning. I loved working with those creative teams. I loved bringing those projects to life, like a really, really big project, like the BMW website relaunch, and planning it all out and telling everybody what they needed to do by when, like having the deadlines, like trying to bring everything together, managing the client, managing the creatives, managing a team. I loved all that, right? And I also was earning really good money. But I realized that I didn't want to move up in the agency hierarchy, become managing director or something like that. And just, in the end, be responsible for more people's problems, because that's what happens. Like when you move up, the bigger your team goes, the more responsible you are just for managing other people's problems. And I just I was happy really doing like the little things and being really involved in one project. So I quit and became a freelancer. And, in advertising agencies back then, I was actually making more money, like earning more as a freelancer than I did as an employee, which is different to a lot of other industries. So, for example, in the media, I think there everybody's looking down to freelancers a little bit. For us, it was different. It was probably influenced a little bit by the software industry, but I was really getting paid a lot more. And I wasn't involved in office politics anymore. I also stopped doing non-paid overwork, like staying late and not getting paid for that. In all those years, while I was being employed, I never got one extra hour paid, which is insane because I was working so much, right? And as a freelancer, I was I stopped that right away. And, I got 3 months projects or 6 months projects. So I was able to take time off. And, more than just a week or 2 weeks max. That winter, my first winter as a freelancer, I went on a backpacking trip to Costa Rica and Panama for 2 months. And oh my God, I loved it. It brought back my full love of traveling. I traveled before a lot. I once also quit my job for 6 months to travel around the world. When I was still studying, I traveled and worked in Club Med. So it's really it's part of me. It's part of my personality, is my love for traveling. I just brought that all back. I've also discovered yoga and went on a few yoga retreats, and that led me to my first online business, a yoga retreat directory that I named Yuvonga. I think I started that, 2011 or 2012, really long time ago. I set up a WordPress website myself, and then yoga retreats and yoga teachers, they could list their retreats on my website, and on my website you could search by date or by location to find yoga retreats. And it was a tiny little thing. I had no idea what I was doing really, and I treated it as a hobby, and I just made hobby money with it. Obviously, it didn't really grow a lot. I think the most I earned was maybe $2,000 a month or something. Nothing really super big. Maybe it was more around $1,000, something between $1,000 and $2,000. But it was fun. It was so much fun. Communicating with all those yoga teachers, feeling I could really serve them, building something. And it instilled that little spark in me that, oh my God, I could be an entrepreneur. I could really build something. I could be my own boss, because as a freelancer, technically I was my own boss. I was still doing the same job I was doing as an employee. A little bit better paid and with a little bit less responsibility, right? But I didn't really see that going anywhere. Would I still want to do that? In my 50s, I was already in my 40s back then. It was everybody around me when I was working in an advertising agency just got younger and younger, which is nice, but you might relate to that. Sometimes it's a little bit tiring being always the oldest person in the room, right? Sometimes it's fine. Obviously, I love working with younger people, nothing against that. But yeah, I didn't really see that as a long-term perspective. So I was already searching a little bit for something else, but I didn't really know. I didn't really know what was possible. And then my next big trip was in 2013 to Bali for a yoga teacher training. Little did I know that this trip would reshape my entire perspective. my entire life, really. Bali became the birthplace of my desire for true location independence because I fell in love with that island. And that became my goal, to earn enough money so I could stay there longer and longer and longer, right? So for the next 5 years, no, actually 7 years, from 20 until 2020, I traveled back and forth between Germany and Bali and then all over Southeast Asia, still freelancing for like up to 6 months a year in advertising agencies in Germany, then going back to Bali, doing yoga teacher trainings, working on my yoga retreat directory, which became also like a yoga travel blog, trying other things to earn money. I started like a website, the PowerPoint Fairy, and I offered my services to all my old agency clients and contacts to create slide decks or like upgrade their PowerPoint slide decks. I hated every single job, but I get paid like good money for that, right? I tried getting some clients who paid me as a freelancer, and then I would work for them from Bali. I think that worked like once or twice when I was working for them in Germany, and then it was like, came to the end of my contract. They wanted to extend it. I was saying, I'm sorry, I'm going back to Bali, but I can work for you from there. So I managed to do that once or twice, which was also amazing because I got paid really well. I did all the things. I was working as an online yoga studio. No, not online, but as an interim studio manager in Ubud in Bali for a few weeks. I was working at a yoga and diving center in the Philippines for a few weeks as a yoga teacher. So I was traveling around, teaching yoga, practicing yoga, working on my yoga travel blog, on my yoga retreat directory, which by now was called Happy Yoga Travels. And then I also started helping other yoga teachers with their websites. So I really got a little bit better at WordPress. So I designed WordPress websites. I helped them launch online courses. I had my first few clients that I helped really with their launches. This is like how my business started. And I was a little bit reluctant to say, okay, I want to work with yoga teachers. I kind of knew I needed to choose a niche, but also like back then, I didn't even know what I didn't know, but I just wanted to get started. I was like, okay, I want to work with yoga teachers. I love yoga. I love, like, so many of my friends were yoga teachers, but most of the yoga teachers that I met traveling around Southeast Asia, they didn't have any money. So I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. Like, how am I ever going to make a full-time income working with yoga teachers who can't really pay me? But then I discovered online courses, and oh my God, I was like, oh, my eyes went like pop, right? I was so excited. I loved learning with online courses, so I invested in my first online courses. I think my first online course was about photography. And I loved it. I was like, oh, I could actually do that. And then I could work with yoga teachers from all over the world. So the first online course, like my first serious investment, was into Courses That Convert by Amy Porterfield. That was back in 2016. And I launched my first online course at the end of 2016. Yogis Go Digital. I launched it to my tiny email list of a few hundred people who like listed their yoga retreats with me. And I sold 6 spots and made like $1,200, which was pretty amazing, right? So it wasn't the life-changing result that I've been hoping for secretly, but it was a great start. And so I launched it again. I launched some other courses, and I started pretty much like right from the beginning, putting out content consistently. Like every single week I had a new blog post. Even when I was back working in an advertising agency full time, wasn't able to really do a lot of things for my business, like growing it, but I managed to stay consistent with a blog post and a newsletter every single week. And I'm so grateful for that, because that really helped me build up a content library that still serves me to this day. Like blog posts that I published in 2017, 2018, they still show up on Google. They still bring me like hundreds of people every single day to my blog, to my website. So I started my business traveling back and forth, working full-time in advertising agencies, like freelancing for around, 5-6 months per year, earning good money. So I was supporting myself from that, and then going back to Bali or the Philippines or Thailand and work on my business. So I wasn't in a hurry to really earn a full-time income. But of course, that was my dream. And every single advertising job that I took on, it got like harder and harder. It felt like I was always like giving away a piece of my soul, like losing a piece of my soul with every job. So I had my last job working in an advertising agency in 2019 in an agency in Hamburg. It was like for a car brand, and it was so exhausting. I was so over it. I really could, I was like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. So I went back to Bali, and then I came back a few months later thinking, okay, I'm just going to take another job and working in advertising, and suddenly I didn't get one. I think there were like 3 freelance jobs that fell through for various reasons, and that never happened before. I mean, I'm really good at my job and I have a lot of expertise, and normally it was like I got in touch with a few contacts, hey, I'm back, and I had like another assignment a week later, or maximum like 2 weeks later. It always really flowed. But this time, suddenly, it didn't. And I decided I'm not going to panic about it. I'm going to see this as a sign from the universe that I needed to get my shit together and go all in. I mean, I had my first like $5,000, $6,000 launches by then. I was ready to go all in, but I was still playing really, really small. That was in 2019. I was still treating it as a hobby a little bit, right? And I needed to really step up my game. I'm grateful for my journey, that I was able to support myself by building up my online business. And I don't necessarily recommend it to anyone that you put yourself in a really stressful financial situation by quitting your job without having another income yet. So I'm all for going it like step by step, either reducing the hours in your old job so you have time to build up your own business, your new business, because otherwise it's really stressful. Like financial stress it's the worst. You don't really want that. But at the same time, for some people, they need that. They need that they jump into the cold water, and there might come a day and a time where you need to do that. So I was at that day and time. I was like, okay, and I'm going to jump. So I sublet my apartment, have to save some money, right? My parents lent me their small camper van. I went on my first camper van trip to France. And then I went to Bali for 4 months. And then I came back, and then the pandemic happened. That was March 2020. I just came back before the first lockdown. Suddenly, I was so grateful that I had my online business, because other freelancers, they didn't have a job anymore. The agencies, they basically stopped all their projects because the companies stopped all their advertising campaigns. It was chaos. So I, on the other hand, stepped up and created a bunch of resources about how to teach yoga online, because obviously that was every yoga teacher was looking for. Okay, how can I move online? How can I still serve my students? How can I teach online on Zoom? So I had a bunch of resources and podcast episodes. I had my podcast back then already. I started it January 2020. I created trainings and freebies, and it worked, right? So 2020 was really the first year that I think I got to 6 figures with my online business. And I was so proud of myself. I also did one-on-one work still. I also designed websites and I sold online courses. And I created my first online course that I sold for $1,000. Which changed my whole business because suddenly I was making enough money to be able to hire an assistant, to invest back in advertising for my business, all the things. Yes, so 2020 was, for all online business coaches, it was probably a good year and it was exciting. So it was really exciting. At the same time, I had some personal stress, so it wasn't an easy time because my mother was sick. That's why I also moved back to Hamburg. I had a house in Bali, but I moved back to Hamburg. I rented an apartment again, which I was very grateful that I had that in the pandemic. So I rented it in 2018. And my mother had ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease. And it just got worse and worse. So while I didn't have to be like her care person, there was always stuff to organize and just to be there. So I was with her, I spent more time with her, but I also wanted to be traveling, right? Because I was like, now I'm finally there where I have a business that allows me to work from anywhere in the world. And I have to stay in Hamburg, which I wanted to leave since forever, right? Since 2011, basically, or even before that. And it was just frustrating. So I got a camper van in 2021 and 6 months a year I was like traveling in a camper van, and 6 months I stayed in Hamburg. My sister also was in Hamburg for a few months in the summer. And just try to find that balance, but it was tough. It was a really tough period. So I didn't grow my business as much as I maybe would have hoped. I still made 6 figures, a little bit more, but it didn't explode like other people's businesses back then. It's fine, right? I'm so grateful with where I am and I had everything I needed, so it's fine. Just to give you a little bit of background, like what's been going on there. And I also turned 50 in 2020. And I didn't want to work so much. I didn't become my own boss to work as much as I did back in my advertising agency days. I didn't want to work late nights. And I couldn't. I realized that I have to manage my energy. I realized that, especially this year and the last year, it's more important than ever for me. I have to manage my energy if I want to be at my full game. If I really want to do the best work that I can do, I can't work late. I can't go out party and drink wine and eat whatever I want to eat and do my best work and feel my best. It's not going to happen, right? I need to manage my energy. And so that means taking breaks. That means not feeling bad when I just read the newspaper in the morning. Getting a dog was the best thing I ever did, but also for my health. Like walking the dog for 2 to 3 hours a day, getting outside for 2 to 3 hours a day. That's the best thing you can do for your health. And I don't even know how people do that when they have a full-time job, right? If you have a full-time job and you have kids, that's impossible for me. Or having small children and building your own business. Oh my God, I applaud you. I respect you so much. I don't know how you do it. It's amazing. I don't have children and I'm totally fine with that. I just have my dog who takes a lot of my time. So I'm still ambitious. I still want to do a lot. I want to grow my business. I want to work with amazing people. I want to really have the most amazing offers that change lives, that impact women in an amazing way, and that change your life. But I don't want to do that working 12 hours a day. I'm happy working just 6 hours a day, sometimes a little bit more. Sometimes I put in another hour, 2 hours in the evening, but not every evening, right? So So that's like, like managing my business in my 50s. So I realized I have to find my own way of building my business. And that's really what I've been thinking a lot about in the last year and especially this year. So I'm approaching like perimenopause. I I had my first workshop that I did, like master classes that I hosted, where I was having a hot flash and like, oh my God, I'm sweating. Is it hot in here? Right? I don't really have symptoms like that I forget things or things like that yet. I mean, I'm also pretty organized. Everything is planned out in asana, and that helps, but definitely taking more breaks, feeling good about taking a break, because I didn't do that before. When I started my business, I was in Bali, and like some other people, they're like, talking about how they worked through the weekend, launching this thing or that thing. And I was like, oh, maybe I should do that too. But I also want to enjoy my time in Bali, and I want to go to yoga class at 9 a.m. And then when I was, it was always, when I was working a lot, I was feeling bad that I didn't really do enough other things. And then when I was not working so much, I felt bad that I wasn't getting anywhere with my business. So it was always that back and forth. And that has changed in the last years because I have now more financial stability in my business. So I have support, I have a team, or I had a team. I really reduced it this year. There's definitely more routine and more stability. And what also helped with that is moving to Mallorca in Spain. So I moved to Mallorca. It's a small island in Spain in the Mediterranean in January of this year. And I rented my own apartment here, moved in March. And I made this my base, and I love it. I just love settling in here, learning the language, meeting new people, having a routine here. I didn't have that for such a long time, so it feels really nourishing. I've been able to lose weight, to take care of myself in a better way. So it feels really nourishing. I know I already miss traveling, so I'm sure I'm going on some trips in the next years as well. But different than traveling in a camper van or traveling for a few months to Bali in a different way. Probably more like before when I was employed and I just took like 2 weeks holidays or something like that. Yes, managing my energy, right? Taking holidays, taking vacations. I haven't done that when I started my business in the last years, and it was fine. But I also know you can burn out loving what you do just as good as not loving what you do, right? You have to take care of yourself. We have to take care of ourselves, no matter how old you are, but especially like when we get older, right? And embrace your ambition. There's still so much possible. And we have all those opportunities today that just didn't exist a few years ago. Like 10 years ago, nobody thought about building an online business and create online courses. And if you wanted to do that, there were no tools or platforms. You had to hard code pretty much everything. And now it's so easy. So you have all those tools and platforms and support and coachings, platforms and coaches who make it really easy for you, who have a roadmap for you. Here are the steps to follow. You don't have to figure everything out yourself. So I would invite you to go on that journey. I would definitely invite you to go on that journey. It's so worth it to step outside of your comfort zone. And, you just have to get started. I wasn't an overnight success, and that's totally fine. Most people aren't, even if it feels like they are, because suddenly they are everywhere. Very often they have already put in the work like 5 years, like doing little things step by step by step until suddenly they are there. I don't know if that's going to happen to me, that I'm suddenly everywhere. I wouldn't mind that. But it can also be really stressful to be an overnight success, because very often those people don't have the team, the support network to actually handle that kind of success. So just go your own way, step by step. Create your first digital product, create a coaching offer, create a package, set up a website, create your personal brand. You can do that while you're still employed. You can try to maybe reduce your hours so you have a little bit more time. Otherwise, you just say, okay, I'm just going to block a few hours on the weekend just to create some content that I put out there. And have maybe like a small digital offer that you can sell while you're growing your audience. That's really all you need to get started. Okay, thank you for joining me on this episode today. I hope that my story inspires you to carve out your own path in the online entrepreneurial world. And until our next episode, stay blissful in your biz and keep building your empire. Bye for now.